where all of a sudden what happens is we go to the core place, you know, with all the negative thoughts and that type of thing. And when we go to that core place, then we actually are ministering to anger, we're ministering to those empty and void places, and we're ministering to pain, and those are the primary places, even though we'll go into fear and anxiety and into the mind in that process sometimes. So that whole process is what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is the empty and void places, even in the whole heart process, you can try to, if all of a sudden one comes up, you can try to wholeheart it and bring Father God into that place. And if it's not going, you can still deal with anger at whatever situation you're wholehearting. And at that point in time, bring God's love into the anger and then deal with it in the midst of your wholehearting without going out if it's not really, really heavy, numb and heavy void and that kind of stuff. So you can do that, and when you do that, what I like to do is when Father God can come close to the empty and void places, sometimes it's a little bit of work, and most of the time anger has to be dealt with, okay? And sometimes I have to go ahead and deal with the mind and the intellect at the same time. But when I'm doing all that, what ends up happening is that I get to that empty and void place, then not only do I ask that Father God come into that place, but I ask if God can fill that place up with His love. And it's amazing what happens when God comes and fills empty and void places up. It just really absolutely changes people's lives. It's a really, really big deal.
Okay, so just a moment, please.
All right, so you're going to come up with another question?
No, I'm going to ask another question, a furthering question about this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the way it goes, here's what I think I'm hearing you say.
Okay.
All right, so I think I'm hearing you say that that in the wholehearting process, I'm like, I don't know, I don't know if I feel it or not. I don't know if I feel Father God coming close to those parts. I don't really feel His peace. I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling those or not. And then I'm nodding out, or you say, well, would you say, well, what's going on? And they might.
I kind of recognize that there's something going on.
Okay.
And I'd say, what are you feeling right now?
And I'd say, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just feeling kind of spacey. I have trouble tracking here.
Okay, and so that tells me that there's confusion in some form around, okay? If they're not, their thoughts aren't clear, or there's, or they're not, there's just, so they might say, well, I'm getting too many things, but I can't just get a handle on it.
And that's what it would sound like, right? That's the kind of thing they'd
Right.
say.
Absolutely.
Anything else that they might say like that?
Just anything that tells you that there's stuff going on in the mind, but they can't get a handle on it, okay?
I don't
Or
know.
there's a
Okay.
feeling of just being numb. You know what I mean? Sometimes they say, well, I just kind of, I'm feeling just this thing, and they might not even know how to describe it, but you just get used to, are you feeling really numb now? Are you feeling like a void? Are you feeling empty? And as long as you know, you can tell that there's confusion going on with them because they just aren't clear about things, okay?
Is
And
it
so
like blank?
Yeah, sometimes they can be blank, where other times it's just racing stuff. In a void place or a numb place, the void place might be an empty, blank place, okay? A numb place is just that it's almost like a feeling of numbness, and it kind of takes over, and sometimes you can't get to any other protector because it's in charge. It takes over.
So then let's do that. So I say, I don't know. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I don't think I feel any peace. Maybe I'm feeling resistance. I don't know.
Okay, all right. And so I would ask you, okay, let's just go through it again, okay? And let's say that we're talking about anger, okay? All right. And so let's just go through it again. Repeat after me. Abba, Father.
Abba, Father.
What's the active root to anger in my life?
What's the active root to anger in my life?
What happened and when did it first show up?
When happened and when did it first show up?
and I'd ask you, I'd say, well, okay, so what's your first thoughts? What's your first thoughts? What's your first thoughts?
And you think I'd have that, or what if I said, I don't know? I'm not really
You're
not
probably
getting
gonna
anything.
say, I don't know, that's what I anticipate and
Okay,
expect.
I don't know,
I just
not-
wanted to set the stage so I could kind of work through it a little
Yeah.
bit, okay? And so then I'd say, well, what are you feeling right now? What's coming to your mind? What's going on? Is there anything coming?
I'm just feeling kind of blank.
Okay, all right. Did you feel like an empty or a void place or something going on?
Yeah.
Or are you feeling God's peace?
No, I don't think I'm feeling God's peace.
What, so is
But
there
this
kind
is
of
just my normal, I don't know,
Yeah.
I just feel kind of normal.
right, you're feeling kind of a haze type thing
Yeah.
over top? Okay, and you deal with that a lot?
Yeah.
All right, so that tells me right there that you have an empty or void place.
Mhm.
All right?
So then you'd catch it, so now I'm out of that role and I'm saying to you, so asking the question, so then you'd catch it because they give you words that say they're in an empty or void place, but
Right.
then what I thought you were saying was that then you try to go back and work with the anger again when
Well-
they're there and bring the Father's. Oh, okay, go ahead. That's where the root of my question is. It's like
What do
I
you do
didn't
then?
understand how you really do it.
Right, and it really depends on when it comes up is how I do it, okay?
Okay.
But if it happens to be in a place where I recognize that this person's getting a lot of negative thoughts, like this will never work. Like some people get, you've tried everything, the other things haven't worked, this is never going to work. Right, that's one that some people get.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's dealing with probably a core place, okay? All right.
Yeah, the core place. I don't really understand that very
Okay.
well either.
So
but
a
go
core
ahead.
place, to me, is let's visualize a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old gets sexually abused by grandpa.
Mhm.
All right. And at the time that happens, the 2-year-old can't handle the emotional overload.
Mhm.
Grandpa loved the 2-year-old,
Mhm.
but then he sexually abuses the 2-year-old, and that doesn't make sense to him, to the 2-year-old. So the 2-year-old, in order to compensate, there's an organ in the brain called the amygdala, and what happens is that measures the emotion, and when the emotion goes into overload, then it shifts the event from the rear of the brain, or from the prefrontal lobe to the rear of the brain, and then it's kind of out of memory. But what happens is that in the midst of all that going on, what really happens is that you end up having 2 instead of 1,
Mhm.
because the heart's broken, right?
Mhm.
And so when you have 2, what ends up happening is the broken part of the heart, all right, begins to operate separately, okay? All right, and so when it's operating separately, that very beginning, the first place where everything, because there's going to be a lot more traumas all their life coming out of that place that's connected to it, but the very first place that it's called, I call that the core place. Now there might be several core places because of just the way it lays out and they're not connected to each other, but in my mind, in what I understand, I call it the core place. And so when I'm speaking about the core place, all right, then I go to the core place, and then I deal with just that whole layout that we did before, with anger and that type of thing.
Okay, so here I am blank, and I don't know what's going on, and I'm not getting anything, and then you're gonna do what? To help
All
me
right,
with
so
that?
what's going to happen is it depends on the extreme. I first might try to, if I'm wholehearting, try to just wholeheart the numb place or the void place or
Okay.
something like that, and just deal with it on that level. And if I can get it done on that level, yay Jesus,
Mhm.
it's yay Jesus regardless. But what happens is if I can't get it done, and they're still at that place, and a lot of times I'll ask people, I'll say, okay, if they're in different stuck places, I'll say, what negative thoughts have you been having when you're home, or what self-hatred thoughts are you having that's coming through your mind? And then they tell me, and then I just go to that place, and I say I want to go to the core place that's connected to this. And so when I do that, then I go through the whole, and I'm not sure, I'm not sure how much we want to get into that whole other tool today, because I think we might be going on a rabbit
That's
trail.
more
with
like
that.
advanced, and, yeah, you might wanna keep.
Yeah, so I guess what happens is maybe we won't get real detailed into it here,
Okay.
but I certainly we can do it on another CD, or we can go ahead, or another DVD, or we can go ahead and I can, as we go through in
Okay.
sessions or whatever, I can help everybody with that. But
Thank you.
it really deals with, we already have gone through that tool that day that I was in, and I
Okay.
went through. So if you go back to
Okay.
that whole process of that DVD on that particular tool.
It's about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Called the presenter or?
Yeah, it's the core, going to the core place, okay, all right, and it's when you go ahead and look for those negative memories, or there's something that comes back and it says you're bad, and you just go to that core place. And so we talked about the core place, and then we talked about, there's a picture of it that I always draw when I do it, and it deals with the core place and all the negative thoughts, okay? And sometimes there's several core places, so sometimes that you have to go to them several times. And then you have the primary thing is you've got anger, you've got confusion, and you've got pain, which I've talked about before. And then there's more to that. Sometimes the mind is always in there, so but the end result is I use that place mostly to get to the memory, the missing memory. Because underneath that there's memories that are being hidden, and it's been the best tool that we've had, and it really is good. But it's been the very best tool we have in order to get to not only hidden memories, all right, but also if you're stuck in a certain area and a person's still having problems, and you're trying to figure out, okay, where is this coming from? Even if you've gone through some of this stuff and they're still having problems, it brings you right back to where the problem is and what the root of the problem is, And so we'd have to maybe go into the teaching deeper today, and I don't think we're supposed to do that. So I think we need to probably move on to another question.
Thank you.
What do you do if you feel like somebody's covering?
Covering? What do you mean?
Covering up. Like there's something there and they're not opening it. Is that the same thing?
Evasive.
I think one of the things that we need to do is, if we're stuck, let's wholeheart the mind.
Go what?
Intellect.
Wholeheart the intellect. If we get stuck, or they're covering up or something, because I'm going to tell you that tool that God released to us, Yay Jesus, is through the roof good. There's a lot of through the roof tools that He's just given us, but that's really, really good. I've been in sessions where people were angry at Jesus, and just all this bad, negative stuff. Jesus is bogus, all this kind of stuff, and just really angry. And I wholehearted the intellect, and when I did that, each time they'd soften, and we were able to get through the session, and they were just touched, and God changed their lives. And right now, as I look at those people, their lives dramatically changed because He gave us that tool to wholeheart the intellect. As a matter of fact, we talked about it today. I see us going out and ministering to people in the park that are crack addicts and all these different things. And one of the first things we do is wholeheart their intellect in a way that isn't real obvious, all right? And their heart softens enough so that we can release the kingdom to them. A lot of those people already have accepted Jesus.